Hello, students. Hope all of you are doing good and fine. Today, we will start with the next lesson of our text, our magic place. The name of today's poem is The Statue by James Reeves. Okay, a little bit information about our poet. The poet James Reeves is a British writer who wrote under the name of James Reeves. Okay, he is best known for his poems and plays for children. He is also remembered as a collector of traditional songs and as a literary critic and broadcaster. So, we have just given you a little information about the poet. Now, about the statue. I'll just give you a brief summary of this poem. Okay, the narrator or the speaker happens to be a child. So everything that is mentioned or described is from a child's point of view. Okay, the boy or the child describes the statue in stone and he gives us details of where the statue is erected, about the greatness of that individual, the facial features of the statue, and also about the inscription below the statue. Now, irrespective of the climatic condition, his clothes have not creased. He also happens to notice the position of his hands as one of them points out to him, and he wonders whether the stone statue is wanting to convey anything to him. So, this is about a brief summary of the poem, The Statue. Now, I'll give you the explanation of the poem in detail. Okay, first I will read out the poem and then I will give you the explanation in detail, line by line. The Statue, written by James Reeves. On a stone chair in the marketplace sits a stone gentleman with a stone face. He is great, he is good, he is old as old. How many years I have not been told. Great things he did a great while ago, and what they were I do not know. But solemn and sad is his great square face as he sits high up on his square stone base. Day after day he sits just so, with some words in a foreign tongue below. Whether the wind blows warm or cold, his stone clothes alter never a fold. One stone hand he rests on his knees, with the other stone hand he points at me. Oh, why does he look at me in just that way? I'm afraid to go and afraid to stay. Stone gentleman, what have you got to say? So this is the poem, The Statue. Okay, now I will give you the explanation of the poem line by line. So first I will be taking the first 4 lines of the poem. Now the first 4 lines are: on a stone chair in the marketplace sits a stone gentleman with a stone face. He is great, he is good, he is old as old. How many years I have not been told. So now the explanation of the first 4 lines. Here, as I have told you before, the narrator of the poem is none other than the child. So the child lets us know that the statue is made of stone or granite. The statue and the pedestal are made of stone. The statue is of a gentleman who is seated on a stone chair, and it is erected in a public place that happens to be a marketplace. He has been told that he was great. Now the child tells us that the statue was, or not the statue, or the person whose statue is erected there, he was great and good and very old, but his exact age was not told to the child. Okay, so now moving on to the fifth and sixth lines of the poem. Now, the fifth and sixth lines are: great things he did a great while ago, and what they were, I do not know. So, now here the narrator or the poem of the poem says that he has been told that the statue man had accomplished great deeds during his lifetime, but was unaware of the details of all those great deeds. Okay, so this is explanation for line 5 and 6. Now I'll take the next 4 lines. Line 7, 8, 9 and 10. But solemn and sad is his great square face as he sits high up on a square stone base. Day after day he sits just so, with some words in a foreign tongue below. So here the narrator or the child who is standing in front of the statue, he says that, or he notices details of his face, and he gives us details like his face is square in shape and his expression is serious and sad. He is seated on a high stone base and he sits in that position for days together without moving. The boy also says that he is a very observant child, and he says that his eyes wander to the inscription below his seat, and because it is written in a foreign language, he is unable to read and understand what is written or what information is given about that stone statue. Okay, now the next 2 lines, that is line 11 and line 12. Whether the wind blows warm or cold, his stone clothes alter never a fold. So here the narrator or that small child, he is a very keen observer, and he says that irrespective of what the weather conditions are or whatever the conditions are, whether it is hot or cold winds blowing, he says that he has noticed that the clothes of that stone statue have not creased. Okay, then the last 5 lines of the poem. One stone hand he rests on his knees, with the other stone hand he points at me. Oh, why does he look at me in just that way? I'm afraid to go and afraid to stay. Stone gentleman, what have you got to say? So now here the child also notices. Now the child, he is a very observant child. He has noticed all the minute details about the stone statue, and he has also noticed that one of the hands of the stone statue is resting on one of the knee, and the other hand happens to be pointing at this child. Okay, the narrator, the child, and that is when this child notices that one of the hand is pointing at the child, he actually feels a little uneasy. He's at a little discomfort, and he says that a sense of uneasiness comes over him, and then he asks that why is it that you keep on staring at me? Is there anything that you have got to ask me or you have got to say to me? So with a questioning look, he asked the stone statue that, is there something that you want to tell me, or is there something that you want to know from me, or is there something that you want to ask from me? So with this we come to the end of the explanation of the poem, The Statue. So likewise, after this listening to this audio, you will be getting the summary of the a summary of the poem, and also the notes and the reference to context. So you will have to write down the vocabulary. First you write down the vocabulary, followed by the summary, and then all the question answers and the reference to context of the poem. Thank you, children.